One of the questions I get asked very often is how can I make my hooded eyes look bigger, brighter, and frankly just plain better? Well, since our eyes are usually the first thing we notice about another person, it is not surprising in the least that when we see many changes happening with our eyes, we need to learn some new techniques to highlight them. So today I'll guide you through the best makeup tips, tricks, and techniques that can once again shine a light on our beautiful eyes. And by the way, ladies, I just finished the most wonderful book called The Girl from the Savoy by Hazel Gaynor. Her writing is hauntingly beautiful, so please stay with me until the end of the video because I'll share a passage with you from her book that especially relates to us at this stage of our lives and which I think you'll find very moving. But now, let's focus on hooded eyes. Some of us are born with hooded eyes, and others of us develop them over time due to aging or changes in the structure of our face. While hooded eyes are completely normal, they can become problematic when they interfere with vision, makeup application, or overall facial harmony. As we age, collagen and elastin production slows, and the thin skin of the upper eyelid starts to sag. This sagging skin can weigh down the lid, add to the hooded effect, and even block peripheral vision in severe cases. But several other anatomical features can contribute to the appearance of hooded eyes as well, including a prominent brow ridge or a low brow position. When the brows sit too low, whether due to genetics or the aging process, it can compress the space between the brow and the lash line, which creates a hooded look. Well, whether we're born with hooded eyes or develop them over time, there are makeup tips and techniques we can use that make an astonishing difference. They help our eyes look larger, brighter, and more defined. Tip number one is to fill in our brows, since our brows play a crucial role in framing and defining our features. Well-shaped eyebrows create harmony between our facial features. They also accentuate the bone structure of our face, which adds dimension, and they draw attention to our eyes as well. Take a look at some of these pictures to see what an amazing role our brows play in helping us look our very best. Here's what we look like without brows, and here are before and after photos of women, both young and old, who have sparser brows but have filled them in. Because filling in our brows can definitely become more challenging as we get older, I've put links in the description box and in the pinned comment below to several videos I've done that focus specifically on tips, techniques, and products that can once again help our brows look beautifully defined. For tip number two, we'll focus on the eyelids themselves. Because of the folds in our eyelids, it's important to apply an eye primer all over our lids so we prevent eyeshadow from creasing. The eye primer prevents the oil on our eyelids from breaking through the eyeshadow, which is what causes smudging or creasing. Using an eye primer is also important because it brightens our entire eye area and it covers up any discoloration on our eyelids. Most of us do develop some redness or discoloration on our eyelids over time, and because our eyelids get thinner, veins also often start to show through. And that's certainly true for me, especially on my right eye. And because eye primer brightens our eye area, I also like to bring it into the inner corner of my eye, since that's a bit of a dark cave-like area. I'll use Makeup by Mario's Master Eye Set and Prep Eye Primer Cream, which unfortunately looks like it's being discontinued. However, you might still be able to find it at some Sephora at Kohl's counters. I'll just apply it only on my right eye, so you'll be able to see the big difference between my two eyes when we finish today. One of the reasons I really like this eye primer is that it comes in two colors, as you saw. And because of that, you can really customize the color for your particular skin tone. And it's perfectly okay to have it a little bit lighter on your eyes, or you may prefer that it absolutely match your skin tone, or come very close at least. Now this is the area where my vein shows through, so I'm going to tap a little bit more in that area and on the inner corners, as I mentioned. So this is just the first step, and see what a difference this makes to add eye primer. It's really hard not to do it on the other eye, but let's move forward. After I apply the cream, I apply powder, which comes with this eye primer. Applying the powder over the cream will mean that the eyeshadow we're going to put on our eyelid next will glide on our lids far more easily without any skipping whatsoever or tugging. And I'm going to apply it all the way up to the brow. Other good eye primer choices include Sigma's eyeshadow base in either Ignite, which has more of a yellow tone, or Persuade, which has more of a pink tone, as well as Urban Decay's Eye Primer Potion in the shade Eden. The next tips focus on the choice of eyeshadow shades, where we place that eyeshadow color in our eyelids, and the techniques we use to apply it. We'll use 3 different eyeshadow shades: a light shade for our eyelids, a mid-tone shade for the crease and above the crease, and a darker shade for the outer part of the crease and eyelid. Here are some of my very favorite great neutral eyeshadow palettes that have these light, medium, and dark shades and will work wonderfully well for this technique. e.l.f.'s I Love You a Latte palette, Natasha Denona's Mini Eye Sculpt palette, the NYX Ultimate Warm Neutrals palette, the Doll 10 My True Beauty palette, and this palette was a wonderful collaboration between Doll 10 and my dear friend Cheryl Lee of Cheryl Lee's Box of Chocolates, and the Juvia's Place Warrior 2 palette. But you certainly don't have to stick just to neutral eyeshadow palettes to create this technique. Even colorful eyeshadow palettes that include light, medium, and deep shades will also work beautifully. I especially love the NYX Ultimate Vintage Jean Baby palette, ColourPop's So Elemental palette, and Natasha Denona's Mini Xenon palette. Before we apply these shades, I hope you'll hit that thumbs up like button if you're enjoying today's video or finding it helpful, and I hope you'll also subscribe and become part of our family if you haven't already done so. Well, tip number 3 deals with where we apply each shade. We want to apply light colored eyeshadow over the entire eyelid area. And if you have darker skin than mine, then use a shade which is half to 1 shade lighter than your skin tone color. We want to use a light shade because light colors make things come forward and therefore look bigger. And dark matte colors make things look smaller and recede. And we definitely want our eyes to look bigger. Here's a good example of how dark colors make things recede and light colors make things come forward and look bigger. For my light shade today, I'll use a light vanilla color from the Doll 10 My True Beauty eyeshadow palette collaboration with Cheryl Lee. I'll use a flat, dense brush, which helps me apply a larger amount of product more quickly over the entire eyelid surface. One of the things I really appreciate about a plastic palette as opposed to a cardboard palette is that you can actually wipe the powder off that always gets on the edges of the palette. I have used this light color so much that it is almost hitting pan. It's very close. Now again, this might not be the right shade for your skin tone. You just have to go a little bit lighter than your skin tone. Since many of us with hooded eyes either lose our crease because of skin coming down lower on our eyelid or the crease area becomes smaller, we're going to create a brand new crease with a medium shade eyeshadow. This will create more depth and dimension in our eye area. But in order to do this, we need to find the orbital bone in our eye area. And you can feel that bone right above that crease area. We want to put the mid-tone crease color right under that orbital bone, right in the middle of our eye. So I'm going to do that by combining 2 mid-tone colors from this Doll 10 palette. I'm going to use the center and far right color in the middle row. One of the brushes I've found that works beautifully well is the E25 from Sigma. And of course, I'll have links to the brushes as well as all the other products you'll see me using today, which will be in the description box below, as well as in the YouTube shopping guide. And it's always very important to tap off your brush to get off excess product. I'm going to start in the middle because that's where I want the most color. And then I'm going to bring it out and in. If you have eyes that are close together, you want to focus your color on the outer part of the eye. And if you have eyes that are wide set, you want to focus more color on the inner part of your eye. I'm doing circle motions and I'm doing windshield wiper motions. And the reason that I'm doing both is that often if we have that loose skin, which most of us do in that area, you may not cover all of it if you just do the windshield wiper motion. That's why this circular motion becomes important. Now, here is the most important part. We next want to look straight ahead into a mirror without lifting our eyebrows. When we look straight ahead like this, it's likely that we won't be able to see that crease color that we just applied. But since we definitely want to see that crease color in order to create a brand new crease, we need to bring that color up higher until we can actually see it. Now, I did bring it up a little bit higher so I can see it, but I'm going to go over it one more time. Then, since we've used most of the color that was on our brush, we can bring the brush up even higher toward our eyebrow so we get a gradual gradation of color or a fading of the color as it goes toward our eyebrows. Creating this gradation of colors will result in a very polished professional look. So I haven't added any more color, I'm just going upwards toward my brow. Tip number 5 is next. We want to bring that medium shade crease color all the way across our eye area. But instead of following our eye area down, we want to go straight across, which will help lift our eye and then bring it down to meet the edge of the eye. Basically what we're doing is creating a backward 7 shape. So let me demonstrate. Instead of going down like this, I'm going to go straight out, and then I'm going to bring the color down onto the eyelid. So I'm creating a backward 7. So as you can see, I'm lifting the eye area slightly by doing that. And I need to add just a little bit more color to the lid. Now, since I've created quite a line of demarcation between the dark shadow and the light shadow on my lid, I'm going to use the brush I used for the light shadow and just go over that edge so it's no longer a harsh line dividing the light from the dark color. Now I'm going to take this fluffier brush so I can blend out the edges so there are no harsh lines whatsoever. And if you find you need to blend out that edge even more, simply take the brush where you had the light color and there's a tiny bit of that light color left and you can just go over that edge slightly. Now as you can see, there's no harsh line after blending it out and using a little bit of the white from the initial brush we used. Now I'm going to apply a slightly darker shade on the outer edge of the crease we've created and along the outer lash line, and then join those two areas together by patting on or stamping on the darker color with a smaller brush, which will give me more control of the placement of the eyeshadow. This is the smaller brush I'll be using, and I'm going to go with this color. And once again, I'm going to tap it off, and then I'm just going to literally stamp it on this outer edge and on the outer edge of the crease. And now, because that's looking pretty harsh along the edges, I'm going to use my brush to blend out the edges on both the eyelid and in the crease. And just blending out these edges a little bit more. Since I'm creating a light daytime look, I'm using light colors, but I could go in with darker colors in the outer crease and along the lash line to create an evening look or a more dramatic look. Or conversely, I could have left it much lighter by not putting on that last slightly darker shade. It really all boils down to personal preference. Now, on to tip number 6, which is to apply eyeliner. I like to apply eyeliner along the lower lash line first, and I'll show you why. I'm going to take a lighter shade than I'll use along the top lash line and apply it only along the outer 1/3 of the bottom lash line. I'm going to use eyeshadow and a small, firm, angled eyebrow brush, which creates a softer look. The reason I like to apply the bottom eyeliner first is so I can create an upward pattern at the end of my eye for the eyeliner above my lashes. By following this natural curve at the bottom of the eye up beyond the eye, we'll also be lifting the eye area. But we want to do this very lightly and tap out the upward end of the line so it looks very natural. With hooded eyes, don't have much space where we can apply eyeliner above the lash line since the hooded area comes down over our eyelid. So we have several different options. The first option is to tightline. That means applying a waterproof eyeliner along the waterline under the top eyelid. And by waterline, I'm referring to this area under the lash line. It can be a beautiful look, but since tightlining is not recommended by most ophthalmologists, I personally don't feel comfortable recommending it. But a second option is to place eyeliner color as close as possible to the lash line or between our lashes. And I'm going to combine these two shades at the bottom of the palette. And then I'm going to stretch my eye out slightly because there's a lot of crepiness. And I'm literally just going to touch the area of my lid that's closest to the lashes. And the reason I like to use a brush is that it is so forgiving. I don't have to make a perfect line. I can simply go back over things with the brush and it all comes together. I'm going to go back over it just to soften it a bit. I'm also tilting my head back so I don't get as much fallout under the eye area. I'm planting my elbow on the table so I give myself a stable placement And I'm bringing it out to meet the line I created when I went underneath the lash line to the outer edge of my eye. Now, ordinarily, I would apply my eye makeup first, but today I wanted to have my makeup on before I did this demonstration. So you can certainly see what a difference this eyeliner makes in giving more definition and emphasis to my eye. We also want to make sure that there's not a harsh, obvious start line along the lower lash line where we began to apply the eyeshadow as our eyeliner. So it's important to feather that line out to soften it, either with a brush or a Q-tip. And I'm just going to use my Q-tip. As far as eyeliner color choice is concerned, using a dark brown shade is a really good option for most of us. One other thing we can do to lift the eyes a little bit more is to bring the eyeliner up before the end of the lashes. Let me demonstrate. So instead of just going straight here, I could start going up a little bit sooner, which would give me more lift to that eye area. But you want to make sure to fill in that area between the line we created coming up from the bottom eyeliner and the top eyeliner. So we'll make sure that this is filled in here. And our seventh and last tip, as you might guess, has to do with curling our lashes and using mascara. Curling our lashes and applying mascara definitely makes our eyes look bigger. Here are two different tips for curling our lashes. We can either use an eyelash curler like this, or we can use our finger. When we use an eyelash curler, we want to start by curling the base of our lashes, then lift our arm so it's horizontal to get the best curl, and hold the curler in place for 5 seconds. Then we want to stair step up the lashes, holding them in the curler for 5 seconds each time until we reach the top of our lashes. You can see how well that curls the lashes. If we prefer not to use an eyelash curler, we can simply place our index finger horizontally across our eyelashes when the mascara is still wet and hold our finger there until the lashes are dry. This method is quite effective for curling our lashes, but it does mean that we need to wash the mascara off our finger. I also like to tap just a little bit of mascara on the bottom lashes. Although this process seemed to take quite a bit of time since I was explaining it as I was going along, once you've practiced a few times, you will be amazed at how quickly you can create this beautiful eye look for hooded eyes. Well, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I want to close today with a beautiful passage from Helen Gaynor's book, The Girl from the Savoy, which seems especially appropriate at this time of year for those of us who are older. She wrote, "It's curious how things are often at their most beautiful when they're at the end of their life. Shooting stars, autumn leaves. Nobody notices the leaves when they're all green and lush in the summer, only when they turn crimson and golden in the autumn. Perhaps we all become more colorful and more fascinating as we reach our autumn months." Until next Thursday, I wish you good health and happiness and hope you have a fabulous rest of your day. Take care.